The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.
Wrestling to the Max NXT Review.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Wrestling to the Max's NXT review for June 21st, 2017. And we, of course, are brought to you by W2Mnet.com and 411mania.com. If you want to go find all our other great content when it comes to podcasts, maybe on Apple Podcasts or wherever you like to find them, make sure you go subscribe to Wrestling to the Max or the W2M Network if you love everything over there at the W2Mnet.com. And want to give you guys also an added bonus. Hey, if you love to go find YouTube videos and maybe you want to download some of our episodes and maybe you have something that you really think is cool, go check out YouTube. That's right. We are on YouTube and we are getting new subscribers. And we want to make sure everybody knows about that. I usually don't announce that at the beginning of the show, but, you know, I do think it's important to let you guys know that we are on that platform as well. If, you know, maybe you use YouTube more than you do podcasting or anything else with a certain place. So make sure you know about that. I am Gary Vaughan, and your host for NXT tonight is Mr. Sean Garmer.
What's up, everybody?
And, you know, Sean, I mean, I know, you know, usually Paul and I kind of cover this, but, and this is kind of getting you back involved in NXT a little bit here. I know you haven't had a chance to watch it fully in a while, but, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different things going on now in NXT, probably since the last you watched.
Yeah, this is a important episode just because, you know, Ember Moon comes back, but yeah, it's been a little while, so if there's been some major movement going on, I've kind of missed it since the last takeover. But yeah, I mean, like you said, time for me to get back in and watch this, especially since they just had the tapings that will take us up to Brooklyn, I think, or at least a little bit before Brooklyn. You know, so we'll get to know. I think they don't really tell you anything, so it might actually just be the ones that covers like July, and then when you get to the August ones, we'll find out more. But yeah, and we'll if you're listening to this first, we'll talk about a certain someone that showed up at those tapings on the W10 Part 2. So you want to make sure you listen to that as well. But yes, so NXT, of course, I just mentioned her, Ember Moon making her return to face Peyton Royce. Billie Kay is at ringside. This match went about, I want to say, like 6 minutes or so. It was actually a good one. Peyton Royce had control for a while, and then Billie Kay got involved, caused Ember to have to do a high cross to outside to take her out, and this allowed Peyton Royce to kind of hit her Widow's Peak, but then Moon just slams Royce into the buckles, and then she gets that Eclipse for the win.
Yeah, and this is something that they've been building on, and it's been really, honestly, I guess you'd call it a B feud or whatever you want to say in the background, because it's not been something that's been a major deal. And the reason they're able to, you know, have this match on this NXT is because really it's not big enough, or they haven't really built it to be huge enough for it to be on one of those takeover shows. But not only that, with Ember Moon's injury and all that encompasses that, they haven't had her around as well, and she can't really do anything injured, so they kind of had her do some video, you know, conversations with Peyton Royce and Ember Moon back and forth along with Billie Kay. So stuff like that they could do, you know, just kind of be at the Performance Center, film something, and not actually be in the ring. So this is kind of a little bit of a payoff. And that's fine. I think the match did what it was supposed to do, right? They're supposed to be getting Billie Kay trying to interfere a little bit. She gets knocked out. And, you know, no matter what, you know, Peyton Royce wants to happen, she can't beat Ember Moon in this situation because of all that. So I think it's good, and you get a little bit of a payoff here. I don't know if they're going to continue any farther, but I think for what it is and what it was in this match, I think it was good.
Yeah, it was a good reintroduction to Ember back to the fold and getting her involved again in get her involved again in the whole process of what they're going to do now, especially since Asuka's probably going to get rid of at least one of her contenders next week, you'd have to imagine.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll have to see if she whittles them down one by one, and then Ember gets involved in this again. But after this, they have Kassius Ohno talking to Hideo Itami backstage as Ohno has a big main event match with Aleister Black on this show. And if you want to watch one thing from NXT this week, it's definitely the Aleister Black and Kassius Ohno match, and we'll get to that a little later. So Itami says that he's not had the best of success since coming from Japan. He feels that he hasn't had that success that he had in Japan and NXT yet. And he was, a bit of an asshole last week, so he was sorry for that. And, he wishes Ohno the best of luck in the match later on. Sanity of Eric Young and Alexander Wolf taking on the Ely brothers. This is the first time I've really seen the Ely brothers, so if they've shown up a bunch, I apologize on that one. But they seem like a very green performance center team. And Sanity, they lost to Ohno and Strong, and now they're kind of needing to rebound to get them back in the mix. And, yeah, the Ely brothers have a good look, but you expected Sanity to get the squash there.
Yeah, you're right, exactly. And the Ely brothers have been around, and they really honestly kind of remind you of what the Singh brothers were, right? They're the tag team that comes in, has a match with you, has a few good things, and then, hey, they're 1, 2, 3 and done. So that's fine. I think that, eventually they'll work on the Ely brothers even more. But you're right. The important thing here is that Sanity's getting back on their feet, and they're going to try to move forward. Really, their whole thing with Roderick Strong didn't work out for them the way they wanted it to. It kind of honestly did put them a little bit on a few steps backward, if you ask me, because they were dominating and they were doing so much, and now their path has changed a bit, and so now we're going to have to see where they go from here. But it's at least good to see them back in their winning ways, and I hope that means better things for them in the future. I kind of got a little sad to see that they did take a little bit of a step back, but, I have a lot more positivity than negativity to say about Sanity, and they look good here. So good job in them that they did what they needed to do.
Yeah, certainly. And, we'll have to see what this means for Sanity going forward. But now you have a really nice video package for Sonya Deville, the lone remaining Tough Enough competitor. Aside from Patrick Clark. The lone remaining female. No, actually, never mind. Mandy Rose is still there, so I need to shut my mouth. But anyway, she is probably the most developed of the three. She definitely has a character that I think sets her apart. And it's something you could put up on the main roster tomorrow. I know she's probably not ready in-ring wise, but still, it's something that makes her different. And I don't, Velveteen Dream, as much as you want to say it's cool and all that, I think that winds up being a comedy character if he ever gets the main roster. And, Mandy is kind of just Mandy. I don't know what, I guess you could always use another, here you go, another female wrestler that looks hot. But yeah, I'd rather have one that has a great gimmick like Sonya.
I agree. And what is Mandy doing anyway? She's never on NXT. Never.
Right.
Maybe Total Divas. I think that's what she's doing now. I don't know.
I think Aaliyah probably does more than her at this point.
See, I mean, so I don't know what their plans are for Mandy. So, but she wasn't on this episode. You brought her up, and I kind of thought to myself, what the heck is she? The Velveteen Dream, Patrick Clark. Week in and week out, me and Paul had the same discussion, and it's always Paul saying, I'm going to give him a chance. And Mom keeps saying he's boring. I don't need to give him any chances because it's obvious he's just not good at this gimmick. I can already tell you that. Maybe I'm wrong, but ever since I've seen that gimmick, the 3-4 times that I've watched him and that gimmick, the matches too, it's not entertaining. It's silly. It's not Dalton Castle. I just can't stand it. So,
especially if they have plans of bringing Dalton Castle in at some point. Mm-hmm. Talk about gimmick dead at that point, dude.
Yeah, you're exactly me and you think just alike. Cause I said that a couple of weeks ago. I said Dalton Castle coming in would just completely kill Patrick Clark. So who knows? But those are a couple of gimmicks of some young people that are trying to do something. I think you're right on Sonya Deville, though. I think she has something that is different, something that we keep hearing about, right? I mean, they have brought in several MMA stars to try to get them to work out and actually take wrestling serious and really stay in it and not just come in and say, not for me. I think Sonya Deville's done a great job, has the look, seems to be going in the right direction. Now, the ring skills are still a little green, still trying to work on those, but that's what NXT is all about, developmental. I think that they have a great opportunity here if they can get her to progress to the level that they need her to get. If she were to hit the main roster, she needs to be a lot more fine-tuned and have a lot more ability to face anybody that they throw at her. I don't think tomorrow she could face Charlotte and have a good match. I just don't think that works. I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Charlotte can actually help her, but I just think alone she's still got so much to do and so much more to learn. And I'm just glad that they are giving her an opportunity. Not only that, they are shining a bright light on her. This is the second week in a row that this whole video package has been there, and you actually get the match tonight, So that's a good thing, too. They get the video package and the match.
Yeah, certainly. And that's the thing, too, is just... you need that time to be on NXT and have those matches. She also has a match with, the former Rachel Ellery and now Rachell Evers. And I like the whole put your hair up and square up. I think that'll work as a nice little, ending line for her if she cuts promos. And I think you get a little bit of what makes her work here, She just beats her up, and she gets that hoverboard lock in, which is an awesome submission that we've seen Kushida use a zillion times, and cool to see Sonya using it, and yeah,
exactly. And I think with this type of character too, you get something that's so diverse that you can maybe draw other eyes into it. Maybe I don't think her MMA career was really a long story at all, and I don't think that she was, a giant star on that circuit. But I think what's cool is the diversity that she offers, and bringing something new to the table should get more people's attention. And I think also it works great in storylines when you've got so many of the ladies that they have in NXT and, of course, on the main roster who are just not about that. They're about all this other stuff. They're not about just the getting in there and beating the heck out of you. That's not what they want to do. Opposite for her. She wants to come in there, beat the heck out of you, and leave. That's all she cares about. So.
Yeah, and I think she certainly accomplished that on this episode here. And then we get into the two things that have kind of been promoted throughout the week for this episode of NXT. And one of them was the fight between Roderick Strong and Bobby Roode at this photo shoot. Now, that's funny the way they set this up. Like, Bobby Roode's just randomly at this photo shoot. And then Roderick Strong walks in with his baby and his wife. And, Bobby Roode is sitting there talking about the baby, how great the baby is, And then he tells his wife, like, hey, if you want to start dating a real man, then, and of course, that's for them fighting words. If you gotcha a woman, and they start having a big pull apart brawl, and Rude lets Strong know, all right, you got me for this title, and you find out it's in 2 weeks, which is part of the tapings that just happened. I really like this, so maybe a little bit contrived, but I thought it was a good brawl.
Yeah, I think so too. And
sorry,
I love the situation here. Now, the photo shoot thing, it is a little silly, like you're saying. But here's the thing. I am not a huge fan right now of Roderick Strong on the mic. I know he's never been great, but I think for this kind of stuff, I love to see his actions more than I do him standing there and telling us what he's going to do to Bobby Roode. I would rather him come in and just say, hey, look, I'm going to tear you apart. And Bobby Roode just plays this perfectly. The insults are perfect. The whole thing makes you feel like, oh, wow, I can't wait till these guys actually, square up in the ring and actually get their opportunity here to have a big, huge match. And that's what's cool, too. You also see Bobby Roode frustrated and saying, look, I'll fight you. I don't care, even if the title's on the line. That's what matters here. That's what makes you excited about that fight. I always look at Roderick Strong. We all know he's great, right? He's one of the best competitors in the ring when he's, around. It's just the fact that maybe the mic skills aren't there. I always looked at Dean Malenko the same way. Dean Malenko is just not overly entertaining on the mic. He just really, honestly, would hope someone else would have it. But when he's in the ring, you love watching him. Same with Roderick Strong. So this is perfect. This is what I love about him. I want to see more of this. Less words, more action on his part. More words for Bobby Roode, though, because he is excellent.
Did you say that you wanted more action? Well, you will certainly get that in this. That's a terrible segue.
For only $9.99, I can do
that. For only $9.99, you can watch this wonderful Aleister Black and Kassius Ohno match. A really good match. Ohno coming out with the Chicago Bulls outfit tonight. I wonder how many of these he has. Does he have one for every team? I want to know this at this point.
I know, right?
We already know he's got a Kings and Orlando and Chicago, and I think he has at least one other one. So, how many of these did he get for this? And these two, of course, have history from Evolve, and they also, I think, were a tag team. Oh, an awesome tag team. Paul would probably be able to tell you more about that. But these two, the story here is that obviously Aleister Black has been just running through dudes, right? And he finally has he had one sort of before, I think at one of the takeover, the one he debuted at, but really this is his first match where he's being tested here. And so you have this wonderful back and forth with them just laying it into each other. Just such awesome. You want some striking going on. That's what you get in this match. And you also get, of course, the finish happens with Ohno tries to go for that, the rolling elbow, but Black hits that black mass, and he wins. So I think as you expect Aleister Black to win, but they did a really good job of making you think at times that Ohno could win.
Yeah, exactly. And, the reason you had that feeling is because of the situation of Hideo Itami, right? And Kassius Ohno basically telling him, dude, don't worry about it. Losing, it happens, and he's basically saying, look, I've been losing at times. I've won a few and lost a few. It's not killing me. I'm going to do it okay, and I'm going to get better, and so will you. And Hideo Itami's been really just treating him like trash. Well, on this episode, like you talked about earlier, Hideo Itami apologizes and all that, and, Kassius Ohno is going to prove us wrong and prove his theory right to Hideo, and he doesn't do that. He loses to Aleister Black, and hey, that just shows you how much they do like Aleister Black. But not only that, you knew when you saw this matchup on paper that you were going to get a really great match, and that's exactly what they offered here. Something that was a lot of fun. I wouldn't say, it'd be maybe a takeover quality match where you're like, oh my God, I love this so much, but it was definitely a good match. And I think they proved a few things here. that Kassius Ohno is going to be in the same situation Hideo Itami's in, and that's a little bit lost, a little bit trying to find his way and find the way he needs to be successful. And I think both Hideo Itami and Kassius Ohno share that so much, and that's why I love that they're having those interactions with those guys. Aleister Black, once again, winning, doing what he does best. I love him. Sean, I mean, this is one of my guys. I just, every time I see him, I cannot wait to see what he does. So I think overall, a great main event here. They give you something you care about. It's layered. It's not just one thing. It's more than one thing involved. And it's good stuff. So I think anybody that, isn't sure if really know much about Kassius Ohno or want to love him or hate him, still a fun match to watch. And Aleister Black, once again, just makes me so happy.
Well, Aleister Black is certainly going to be... I don't know how anybody that sees him doesn't see, oh, this dude's going to be something. Because every time I see him, it's like, man, he's so awesome. He fits to a certain demographic that WWE doesn't have somebody for right now. It's just, man, I don't know how much more they need to do with him in NXT, but I can't wait to see him on the main roster because he's got such a unique look with all the tattoos and everything else, and just then you put in his wrestling, and it's like, wow, here you go. Here's a guy that stands out.
Yeah, he definitely does stand out. And Paul and I had this discussion last week when we were talking NXT about Aleister Black and about his character. And Paul was kind of giving us the background and all that of Tommy End, which is Aleister Black, and how dark he was. And some of the messages that he had are definitely not PG, not WB friendly. And they're kind of doing a different version here, which I think is still working. But, I mean, the real question is how marketable is he going to be for the fact that a lot of what he stands for and the messages that he kind of has is a little bit on like the pagan or that whole, kind of like devil worship in a way theme. Do you think that they can do that successfully on the main roster?
They can. I think, you don't have to go as extreme as he did in the UK promotions or whatever. You can kind of do a PG version of that. Do you do it without it being kind of hokey like what Bray Wyatt has become? I don't know. I just don't want to have this issue where he becomes like, oh, Bray Wyatt's disciple or something like that. I'd hate to see that for him too, and I'd be worried about that. But they could do it. It's just, they're not going to go that crazy with it because it's a PG program.
Yeah, you're right. And I think, marketability, I think they can get some T-shirts out there that maybe have a few of his symbols, but, please make sure that they're not, saying something or doing something that's too dark. Hopefully they still make it mysterious. I think that's the best thing about Aleister Black. He's so mysterious. And my fear was, they allowed him to talk a little bit in the vignette last week. And that kind of scared me. And Paul said, don't be scared. I'll let him do what he's going to do. He's going to do fine. He needs to use the mic. And I just don't want, like you're saying, a Bray Wyatt situation where he's overexposed and the next thing you know, all that mystery taken away makes his character.
Well, I think part of the reason with Bray Wyatt, though, is because he's a bunch of hot air.
Mm-hmm.
Right? As long as you don't make him a bunch of hot air, and whatever the dude says that he's going to do, he does it, and he wins, and he beats people. And if you're going to make him a cult leader, you make him a cult leader. You don't just say he's a cult leader or a god or whatever, and then he doesn't do anything. So that's the worst. Is Bray Wyatt is this character that's just he's a bunch of vanity, and like as long as you don't do that with Aleister Black, you're fine.
Yeah, you're right. And I think they will try to find that different path for Aleister Black. He doesn't have a family around him. He doesn't have to worry about all that junk. So they can focus strictly on him. And I think that's a really positive thing. I think it is marketable. I think there's a lot of things going good for him. And heck, Sean, whenever he makes his WrestleMania debut, oh my God, that entrance is going to be freaking sweet. I can only imagine how scary that thing is going to look when he shows up one day.
Oh, goodness. Yeah, that's going to be amazing. I can't wait to see that entrance.
So, but I also, before we get out of here, Kassius Ohno, I know I've already talked about him a little bit, but I'm really curious what you think about him right now, Sean. I mean, they just are not really getting him in a situation where he's being super successful. He's kind of been playing the sideline character of, hey, I'm really good. I'm a main eventer here, but I can lose matches and I can win matches. I'm really not on a run. I'm just kind of here. Do you think that they're going to change this? By what you saw just on this episode alone, where he's kind of frustrated, do you think they're going to take us on a different path, maybe turn him heel? How do you feel about Kassius?
I don't know. I think he's just kind of... He understood that he was going to have an extra role with NXT of being a coach and maybe down the line being an agent for them at the Performance Center, and not so much being the guy. He's a guy that they can put on the marquee, and he sells tickets for the house shows and whatnot. But as far as having big plans for him in NXT, perhaps that's not what he's there for. Especially because you brought in Drew McIntyre now. He's going to go over Kassius Ohno too eventually and go for the title. Maybe once you run out of everybody and you don't have somebody else, I mean, that's barring that Adam Cole or Kyle O'Reilly show up or something like that, that would also probably go bump up over Kassius Ohno. Eventually you're going to have to go to him because you don't have anybody. But it's good to have a guy like that in the wings that you can go to and go, oh, we haven't had this matchup yet, let's do it.
Yeah, you're right. And, there's so much talent there. And I think they're finally allowing us to see more of what he is. I think for a little while they were kind of like, don't give us all you got. Kind of give us a little bit, but we want to save some of your real, true skills until bigger matches. And I think they're slowly getting us into that rhythm of, hey, this guy is a really good worker. We're going to allow you peek into the curtain of what he can really do. And they're slowly doing that, and they're building him. So I just can't wait till they allow him just to go. Just, all right, now, pretend you're Chris Hero now and go. So we'll see. But yeah, I mean, that's your NXT for this week. Once again, a lot of things here that are really building towards the future, and I think they actually had some things that mean something. It wasn't just an episode where it was squash here, squash there, continuous storyline. I think they actually had some moments here that were really special, especially that main event match. So, there you go. Go check it out if you haven't checked that out already.
Next week you have the last man standing match between Nikki Cross and Asuka. So for the next couple of weeks, you got some bona fide, fantastic matches you need to watch NXT for.
For sure. I mean, this is going to be really good, and I really look forward to that match. I know everybody else will too. So, come check us out next week on our NXT review for that. We'll talk about it definitely and really get into what it means afterwards. For all our other great reviews like Raw, SmackDown Live, 205 Live, make sure you go check us out on W2Mnet.com. Also for WomanMania.com as well. Plus, you can also find us on iTunes or wherever else you find your podcast, or Wrestling to the Max, or the W2M Network. And, once again, like I mentioned at the beginning of the show, YouTube, it's a thing. Make sure you go subscribe there at the Wrestling to the Max YouTube channel, and it'll also give you everything that we have to offer. But yeah, that's our show for the night. And so we hope you have a great rest of the weekend, and we will see you guys down the road. I'm Gary Vaughan. He's Sean Garmer. Peace.
Later.
The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.